Good morning, everyone. We've got quite a few registrations here today, so really exciting to see, and some great presenters as well from the Milo Institute. We've also got so David and Dan are online. We've got Kerry from the Australian Space Agency, and we've also got Phil from Lockheed Martin. Welcome to today's webinar. We're really excited. This is an opportunity to learn more about the Milo Mission Academy for Lunar Exploration. Want to acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands in which we meet today across the nation and internationally from wherever you're joining. I'm on the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. My name is Michelle Keegan, and I'm the Director for Resources and Space at Arose. I'm really excited to be hosting the webinar today with the team from Milo, the Australian Space Agency, and Lockheed, as I mentioned earlier. Together, we are focused on making space accessible to all, and so bringing this academy to Australia and New Zealand, a 12-week virtual internship available to students over 18 at TAFE University and those up to 5 years out is super exciting. Already done a bit of a welcome. But so a quick overview of who Arose is and, why are we leading this effort to work with Arizona State Uni and the Space Agency to bring this program to Australia and New Zealand. We're an industry-led, not-for-profit consortium where it really have been established so that we can help catalyse a transfer of technology and approaches from Earth to space and back again. But we've also got to focus on supporting the future workforce in Australia, and so STEM advocacy is really important to us. The STEM blueprint is something that is we've been working over the last few months, and really when you look at the STEM blueprint that we put in place to work across the nation, we're really keen to both build awareness across the sector so that people understand where pathways are. We're keen to leverage different groups to be able to achieve this, and we're keen to be able to create outreach programs across primary, secondary, and tertiary students. So with that quick overview complete, really want to make the most of the time today. You would have seen that the original webinar was set up for 45 minutes. We thought that was a technical parameter here, but looks like we may be able to run for an hour. So for those that can stay on for longer, we welcome you to do so. But without further ado, I wouldn't mind handing over now to Kerry from the Space Agency. What we're hoping to do here is to show you a bit about potential pathways that the Milo Academy could take you towards. Then we'll hear from David from the Milo Institute, and then we'll hear from Phil lastly from Lockheed Martin, working in industry, keen to have him talk about, why does he see this as an important academy for students to participate in. Kerry, would you like to share your screen, or would you like me to?
Okay, let's see if this will work. If it doesn't, you can pick it up, because we have had a few interesting things occurring this morning. There we go. Now, are you seeing that?
Yep, that's up now.
Okay, great. Great. Welcome, everyone. We're really glad that you've come along today for this sort of introduction or sort of insight into what the Milo program might be able to offer you. And as part of that intro, I'm Kerry Doherty, the Senior Heritage and Outreach Officer with the Australian Space Agency. I just wanted to touch briefly on some workforce insights that might help you to get a feel for why being involved in the Milo program could be a good step in developing your career or future career in the Australian space sector. Now, the agency, of course, is the sort of core of civil space activities here in Australia. We work across government with industry, academia, to advance Australia's position in the global space economy. So we provide funding opportunities to industry, technical expertise and direction across the sector, international engagement, policy advice to government on the development of the Australian space sector, and of course we're involved in regulating Australian space activities. Now, in addition, we also have a number of initiatives through our Inspire pillar to inspire not only the general public but to build the future space workforce. And that, of course, is why we're interested in supporting the Milo program. Now, if you're not aware of it, the Australian government actually has a current goal for 1.2 million tech sector jobs by 2030, which of course includes the space sector. And to grow our space sector and contribute to that level of job growth, we're going to need a broad range of skills. And you can see I've just briefly listed some out here. Across, we need technical skills, operational skills, what we might call support skills downstream, so that the data and the information we bring back from space can be utilised here on the ground through various capabilities. But also importantly, we need soft skills. And I just want to take a moment to talk about this because it's something people don't often think of. But space activities, particularly over the coming decades, more and more they're going to involve international teams, interdisciplinary teams. And to be part of those successfully, you really need skills in teamwork and collaboration, decision making, problem solving, and of course, some experience in leadership. And all of these things are part of the soft skills experience you'll gain through being involved in the Milo virtual internship, as well as those more technically oriented skills. And now, some of you perhaps may already come out of areas where Australia has its current strengths: autonomous robotics, remote sensing, astronomy, and astrophysics. But of course, they represent only a very, very small area of the overall space sector. And so to grow the space sector, we need a much broader range of skills. Now, at present, there's some interesting research that's been done by the CRC, or the SmartSat CRC, looking at future requirements for skills. Where do we have shortages? And what they're already seeing is that the requirement for people with VET or TAFE-based skills is going to grow more than 12-fold by the end of the decade. So that's 106 additional different kinds of VET-based space skills, which is actually a 176% increase above the number of skills currently available for the space sector. Similarly, in the university sector, there's going to be an increase of about 2.5 times and at least 28 new skill sets that are going to be required. So that's about a 14% increase above the current skill sets available here in the country. So the areas that we know we're going to require are people in the engineering sector. You can see some of the different areas of engineering that are going to be important. Similarly, scientists in a number of areas, especially as Australia moves forward with, we hope, supporting operations on the moon and perhaps eventually Mars and other space exploration. We're going to need a lot more IT and data specialists, and particularly we're going to need technicians in a whole range of support areas for manufacturing and and operations. Now, at the moment, the TAFE or VET qualified skills with the highest demand are in the manufacturing area. So things like robotics, electronics, communication engineering, and computer systems engineering. And it's worth remembering too that you may have already developed some of these capabilities through working in the aerospace or defence sectors, and so they're quite transferable into the space sector, those skills. And likewise, if you go into the space sector, find perhaps that it's not quite your thing, the skills you'll develop can be transferred into a lot of other areas, not just aerospace and defence, also the mining sector and so on. Similarly, right now, the university qualification skills we need the most are in systems engineering, project management, and software skills. The Australian space industry has actually developed a range of careers in space resources. They are primarily targeted towards high school students, but you will find a lot of useful information if you're at university now that could also be helpful to you in thinking about future space careers. We've just launched a new website, space.gov.au, and if you would like to go there, you can look up the career resources facility links, and that will take you to some of our online careers resources projects, such as the Space for Everyone that runs through a number of different space careers. Vocational training programs that are quite useful at present and will be into the future, things in the programs in the management sector, in electronics and computer science. They can all play a role in building and supporting satellite launching, ground facilities, excuse me, a whole range of areas that may not seem quite as exciting, but in fact are really important to make space activities happen. Now, and similarly, if you come from a non-STEM background, we actually need quite a range of non-STEM professionals throughout the space sector, particularly people with skills in law, economics, finance, business, and a number of other support advisory services. So even if you have other friends who are in those sectors and maybe think that they can't get into the space sector, there's certainly opportunities for them, and the Milo program may actually be an important stepping stone for them to move into the space sector. So I'll finish off there.
All right.
And let our next people take over. And I'm just trying to get back to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Kerry. It's a great opportunity of a chance to let people know where this course might take you into the future. Kerry will be online for questions at the end. So I'll hand over now to David and Dan and the Milo team to present a bit more about the course and what it feels and looks like and where it can take you.
Thank you, Michelle. So I'm going to present just a quick introduction. I'm going to hand this over to Dan. And I really appreciated what Kerry said. Everything she said is spot on. You look at some of the forecasts from some of the big banks, we're looking at, a very large space economy in just a handful of years. The numbers I've seen are going to put it on par with global tourism. So you can imagine how many people are working in global tourism right now. That's what the space economy is going to look like within the next few years. What I love about what Dan's about to present, though, is really sort of, it hits home. It's a bit of a personal story for me. I was the first in my family to graduate university. And I came from a background that wasn't really promoting academia. And I happened to find applied physics. And I kind of wonder sometimes how I found it. It was almost an accident. And I had a wonderful career, 15 years in the defense sector as a scientist. I've seen some amazing things. I've done some amazing things. But I can trace all of that joy and fun back to a handful of people that opened doors for me and said, David, you should try this thing. It's really cool. I think you have the ability to do this. And that's what Michelle and Kerry, Rose, Australian Space Agency, and Lockheed Martin are doing right now, is saying, through this program, we're going to help open doors for you so you can pursue something that may feel like it's been out of reach to this date. And we're here to say it's no longer out of reach. So what I would like to do now is to hand this over to Dan Garcia. He's been implementing this program for years. And the stories he's going to tell are going to amaze you about how it's changed people's lives, about how it's inspired people. It's given that boost to be able to participate in something that before this program, they only thought was a bit of a dream. And it's no longer that, it's real. So Dan, with that, I'm going to hand it to you, sir. And I'll slide the slides forward when you tell me to.
Yeah, thank you, David. Appreciate that. Hello, morning, everyone. My name is Dan Garcia. I'm the Deputy Director for the Milo Mission Academy and also for the NASA LaSpace program, which the Milo Mission Academy was modeled after. And we'll talk about that here in a bit. But David, I really, your story resonates with me as I, came from one of the poorest regions in the United States and in deep South Texas on the Mexican border, where over half of the people in my region, age 25 and above, didn't even have high school education. And so there was really a lack of support and really exposure to space in general when I was growing up. And now what we've done is we've built a program that really levels the playing field. And no matter where you grew up, whether you have parents that are working in space and engineers and scientists, or whether you grew up in the most rural part of your country, what we've done has been able to create a program that levels that playing field and provides people that opportunity, like you had, David, and so many others like myself, where meeting and getting to interact with key individuals in our lives that are going to pivot where we're at and take us to the next phase, essentially, of what we're trying to accomplish. And so I actually just met with a student yesterday who joined our program last summer, and she said, I was a mechanical engineering major, and she finished school with a degree in mechanical engineering. And she said, and I've always been, inclined and excited about engineering, but when I took this program, she said, it really sparked this different interest in me in space, and it opened up this potential pathway for her that she had never considered before. She never could see herself working in space until she did this program. So that's what we're here for, ultimately to provide a level of guidance and support and training for all of you that participate in the program. So we can go ahead and transition. Next slide, David, please. So overall, our program, we're a workforce development program. We want you to kind of see it as such. And when we talk to entering participants into our program, especially students, and I recognize that we're going to have a blend of professionals, early career professionals and students in this program, but it's something that we're very aware of and really talk to that in terms of having being not academia necessarily and not necessarily in the workforce either. We're that middle ground where students are actually getting opportunities to practice, put these things, the technical training that they learn in their regular coursework. We're the applied course, really, where they take that technical knowledge and come and apply it. And Carrie, I'm so glad that you talked about soft skills being so critical, because that is something that we definitely enforce here in our program. When it comes to the soft skills of problem solving and collaborating and communicating, those are all critical. But something that you touched on earlier was the aspect of teaming. And teaming is something that we did a needs assessment before we developed our program. We went across different NASA centers and different companies like Lockheed Martin that we'll hear from in a bit. And the one thing that resonated the most with us in terms of what they need for early career professionals to start from day one, they said, we want people that can effectively work on teams. And now we know, especially over the last several years, virtual teaming has become even more important. And so being able to perfect that art really is what it is, of collaborating virtually with the team and contributing your ideas and enhancing those soft skills are really going to set you apart and give you that advantage over others that you're competing against for jobs. So we ultimately provide a virtual hands-on experience that transfers knowledge from subject matter experts that have been doing this for years, and we'll look at that here in a while, but really to provide students and professionals opportunities to get a taste of what it's like to work on a space mission, to learn the procedures and the practices and the protocols of working on a space mission while enhancing those soft skills as well. So next slide, David. Now, our mission at the Academy, it really is all about training and professionalizing all of you, not just the future space explorers, but we recognize, again, like Carrie mentioned, these skills are transferable into other sectors as well. So really building the future STEM professionals of your country, but we do it in a very inclusive and supportive community. And so community is everything to us. In fact, connecting with people is so essential nowadays. I just a couple of days ago had the honor of attending a talk given by the U.S. Surgeon General, who was visiting Arizona State University, and he gave a talk about connection, and it really resonated with me in the sense that we really focus in our program on providing not only a safe space for collaboration and inclusion, but really a space that offers, and we call it a family style environment, right? While we're working to professionalize people, we recognize that levels of support and connection are so important. And so in everything that we do, built into the fabric of our work is that aspect of community. And in our US program, in the NASA Space program, and it's L''space, our students named their own community. They said, you know what, this is a very family style environment. We're going to call ourselves the La Family. And so that just took off over 5 years ago. And David, if you can transition over to the next slide, I'd love to share a little bit with everybody about the heritage of our program, because we launched our NASA program. Our program in the US is a fully funded NASA program, and we're a part of a NASA mission called the Lucy mission. So we're fully funded by NASA, launched in 2018 with the original intent of working with approximately 500 to 600 students over the course of 3 years. And as you can see, we far exceeded that. We had well over 500 applicants in our very first semester, and in reviewing applications, again, with our intent designed to level the playing field and provide equitable opportunities for all, we figured, why not open it up to the masses? And so we did that. And so since then, we've worked with over 8,300 participants in our program. We've expanded our academies, in fact, and over 915 colleges and universities are represented amongst those students. A lot of them, as you can see, 278 of them are community colleges, but we want to make sure to stress also how, because we're such an inclusive community, word kind of spread across. We used to ask students, where did you hear about us? And at first it was from their professors that heard about this NASA program and thought they should take this course. And that quickly shifted into, I heard about it from my friend or from my roommate or from my classmate that took this course and said that I absolutely needed to do this, that we provided this opportunity for them to not only gain technical skills and enhance the soft skills that we talked about earlier in an inclusive environment, but really providing that safe space. And so because of that, we've got over 41% of our participants are participants of color. 41% are female as well. And so these numbers that typically are underrepresented in STEM careers are flocking to our program because they're hearing about not only the benefits of preparing professionally for these things, but also the support and nurturing that we provide for everyone as well. Not only that, but as a virtual program, I don't know if any of you have ever taken a virtual course or any type of virtual program. Typically, those programs have a high turnover rate. Students drop out for whatever reason, and when watching videos and thinking that you're doing a virtual experience, it's going to be engaging and dynamic, and you find out, well, it's just a talking head on screen. We're very different from that. We really provide an engaging, collaborative, and just a fun environment to provide that. And so overall, we have a 90% completion rate. So unlike other programs that are virtual that typically see 10 to 20% completion rates, we're actually flipping that as well. So let's talk a little bit about our program structure. So our sessions, we've got 12 sessions that you'll participate in, and these are live sessions. So like I said, you're not necessarily going to be watching a recording of a talking head. We bring in subject matter experts that we'll look at here on the next slide, but we're bringing subject matter experts in to transfer that knowledge. So many so many veterans in this industry, in space and STEM industries, are getting ready to retire, and so transferring their knowledge on to the next generation is something that we find they're very passionate about, but at the same time, it's critical for you to get that understanding, and not just the training, the technical training aspect of it, but how their stories, because it's amazing. We have students that say all the time, it's like we get our very own TED Talks every single week when we come here that are private just for us by these people that are veterans in the field and subject matter experts in the space industry in this context here. Throughout this presentation, by the way, you'll see some testimonials from students that have been a part of the program, and you'll get to kind of read those along the way, and we'll provide these slides as well to you, Michelle, if you want to put those out there. But anyway,
hey, Dan,
these sessions. Yes, David, go ahead.
We've got a great question in the chat. I wonder if we could pause for just a second and see if you don't mind responding to that. And so Stephanie asked a wonderful question. Are you able to track the percentage or number of participants that get into space sector jobs, paid or unpaid, i.e. internships, after the program? Any thoughts there?
That is a great question. And so we currently are doing that, actually. We're in the process of doing that. Like I said, we've been around for 5 years now, and we have done a scan across our community to find out those that have graduated, where they're at. And I can confidently tell you that we've got hires out at all of the big companies, NASA, SpaceX, Boeing, Lockheed, all the others. But we get emails actually from students almost on a daily basis telling us about their next interview opportunity or their next their job interview or internship opportunity that's come across their way. And almost every single time that we hear from those students, they talk about how this experience and the final deliverable that they're providing. And so at the end of this experience, you'll have a deliverable that you'll submit. And it's a tangible document that they're actually taking to these interviews with them to be able to flip through and identify and demonstrate the very specific skills that they've contributed and aspects that they've contributed to this technical document. And they find that that's what their interviewers want to talk about. They're like, well, let's keep talking about this project that you did. So when it comes to tracking those, that's actually our next step, because our program currently accepts all levels of college. So from freshmen, so entering into university all the way through senior year. And so a lot of our students are still in school right now. So we are working on, as they're graduating, connecting with them. We've got an alumni network built on LinkedIn, where we'll create one for you all as well, where they stay in contact and championing each other's success, cheering each other on, posting opportunities for each other. And so very soon we're going to be able to have a percentage for you in terms of that. So, but we do have hundreds, if not thousands by now, of students that are getting hired or getting internship offers because of these things. And David, I noticed the slide is a little off. I apologize to everyone. I'm not able to share my slides, and so I see that the slide's a little offset, so I apologize for that. But let's actually move into that next slide, David, or that slide that you're on, because I talked about our subject matter experts that we bring in, and this is just a sample. We've got a couple others that we plan on bringing into this experience, but the sample of the types of experts that you're going to have, people obviously like David, who's in this room right now, executive director for Milo, and he's got vast experience, and he talked a little bit about that. But people like Dr. Jim Bell and Dr. Phil Christensen, who are principal investigators of space instruments that are flying the solar system right now, and Dr. Bell's Mastcam Z currently on Mars, and so these are people that not only are teaching these skills, but they are actually practicing this as well. And we've got subject matter experts like Dr. Jim Rice and our very own director of our program, Sherry Boonstra, who couldn't be here today, but you'll definitely get to see her, because Sherry and I actually host every single session. We're the hosts and moderators of the session. And so a lot of great experience that we're bringing to you. So you're learning from the top-notch experts in the field for this. Next step, David. Or next slide, sorry. So we want to give you an idea, and you can find this list on the website as well, but we want to just give you an idea of the types of sessions that you'll get to experience in the program. We talked about teaming being one of those really critical skills to develop. So that's a whole session that we focus on. In fact, we bring in a subject matter expert who used to work at NASA headquarters and is now retired. He was in charge of the whole solar system at NASA before he retired, and now he's got his own company. He's a consultant that goes and actually does NASA reviews for teams and helps teams work more efficiently together. So he's going to come in and train you as a part of this experience. On top of that, though, learning about mission destinations and the space environment is critical, and it's going to be a part of this project that you'll be working on. Throughout the 12 weeks, you'll be working within a assigned team that we'll put you on, and you'll be working on an actual project, and we'll talk about that here shortly. But you're going to need to know exactly, more about the destination that you're going to be visiting. And in this case, it's a little transparent because we're the Lunar Exploration Academy. So just heads up, we're going to be exploring the moon here in this particular academy, and we're excited about that. But you'll learn a lot more about that from experts like Dr. Jim Rice, learning about the moon and the space environment and how to work a mission concept to actually function in those types of environments. Science drives the design. We say that all the time. So for those engineers in the room, that love just developing ideas and concepts, it's really important to focus on the science and have that as your goal. And so we're going to spend a whole session talking about science goals and learning about the science traceability matrix and how that plays a part in mission design. We've got a really amazing tool that we're going to be teaching you called JMoon. That's a GIS tool that you can utilize and not just explore the moon, but there's different versions of it where you can go to JMars, for example, and actually explore high definition images of Mars and maps. There's JAsteroid and really JSolar System, if you will. But that tool was developed at Arizona State University, and so we're bringing that to you, and that's a part of this program as well. Not only will you be trained on how to use it, you'll gain access to it, and you'll have access even beyond the academy. And then these other topics as well, the actual experiment and mission design, learning about mission requirements, science instrumentation, concepts of operations, data management, and risk. And all of these components are so critical. And in fact, Carrie, again, touching on some of the stuff that you talked about in terms of future jobs, you mentioned, systems engineering and project management and software. Those are very, very, high demand jobs that we're seeing. In fact, we've got a partnership with one of the NASA centers where they've developed a systems engineering program specifically for early career professionals, and they're utilizing our program as a pipeline to get students in there because they're recognizing the breadth of experience that these students are getting in this 12-week experience, that they're getting that systems engineer practice essentially. So I'm glad that you mentioned those earlier. Next slide, David. I recognize I'm kind of short on time, so I'm going to kind of go through this next part a little quickly. But essentially, I've talked a little bit about this already in terms of mission destination. So you're going to be exploring the moon, right? And so we're going to address compelling science goals and relevant space destinations. And that's really important to us as well, that these missions that we do, these mission concepts that we assign to our participants are not these just fictitious, maybe 50 years down the road we'll see that happening. These are things that we're looking at, science goals that we're looking at accomplishing through Artemis, and destinations that we're going to right in the near future. So our destination for this particular experience will be the moon. Next slide, David. So you're going to develop an actual mission design that's going to address one or more of those science goals throughout this program. So like I mentioned, we're going to put you on a team, and together as a team, you're going to decide which science goals you're going to go after, and then have to develop a mission concept, essentially something. I don't want to spoil it. We don't want to give all the details away, but you're going to be working with a team to develop an actual mission concept to achieve those science goals. And so you're going to work within a team, like I said, and apply the skills that not only you're coming to the table with, but also additional skills that you'll learn here through the program. Next slide, David. And then your deliverable throughout this experience is going to be a design review. And so we've seen documents in terms of design reviews come in anywhere from 90 pages to 250 pages. And so these can get very comprehensive and very detailed. And this is the final document that I talked about, utilizing as a tangible document that you can take into interviews and talk specifically to this particular project. You're not in this alone either. So along with our subject matter experts that you'll be hearing from on a weekly basis, you're also going to have a mentor, so a peer mentor who's been through this process before, who's done this particular project or a project like this before. We change it up every single semester, so you can't just Google the answer. We want all ideas to be unique. but you have a mentor that will help guide you through the process and help you and your team identify, where you need to pivot or what you need to do to include. You'll have plenty of guidance as well. We've got training when it comes to putting this document together, and tools and resources that we'll be providing you also. Next slide, David. Speaking of tools and resources, a couple more. There we go. I want to talk a little bit about these upskill opportunities. And so again, one of the ways that we level the playing field, so if you're a first year university student, or you're getting ready to graduate, or maybe already working in workforce, no matter where you're at, chances are you're going to be working with a team, and there's going to be some aspects of this project that you might not be too familiar with, and for whatever reason. And so what we've done is we've developed skill modules to help level that playing field. And so here's just kind of a screenshot of an example of one of them. And so we've got modules when it comes to teaming, like we talked about how important that is. And you go in, and these are asynchronous modules that you'll get to go in and watch the videos, learn from that, take an assessment, and you get to earn a badge for them. We call these skill badges. So every single module has its own badge you get to earn. And so you get to see an example of what those look like here on screen. And we've got, almost all students who participate in our programs go after these badges. We'll have a final certificate for you at the end, and the badges that you earn will be placed on that certificate. But more so, it's not about collecting the badges as much as it is about getting that experience and learning about these specific things like systems engineering, like requirements, like project management. As you'll see, we've got project management and systems on there as well. That's how critical those are. And so I'm glad that you covered those earlier, Carrie. And finally, in terms of skilling yourself up, taking advantage of every opportunity you have here, we've partnered with the Siemens company, and they've got a CAD software called NX. It's being used in industry. In fact, we partners at Lockheed Martin that use it. There's NASA centers that use it, and other companies as well. It's a really, really high-level CAD software that we partnered with Siemens in to where every single participant in our program gets full access to the software. So you'll be able to download that software included in the program. And then beyond that, we've got training opportunities for you, not just to watch videos, but we also have an engineer that's going to be providing live support sessions for those of you that want to learn this particular software. And ultimately, at the end of the program, you'll have an opportunity to earn an industry certification in the software through that company, absolutely included as a part of this program. So lots of great opportunities. And so I think as I'm going through this, the one thing that stands out to me is the fact that upskilling is so critical, right? And so we always tell students, you will get out of this what you put into it. But the reality is nowadays, this upskill concept is so important. And so taking advantage of all of your discretionary time when possible to make sure that you're setting yourself apart from the competition, and make sure that you're learning and continuing to grow. This lifelong learning concept is really important, and more so nowadays, where you can get these micro credentials almost and continue building these skills up in yourself. So that's pretty much all I have, but we've got opportunities for you to contact us via email. Definitely visit the website, get some additional information there, and you can always just reach out to us if you have any questions. And we'll be on here, obviously, for questions at the end. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Dan. Fantastic overview. And yeah, we'll make sure these slides are available to everyone. I realize, it's hopefully people can join for the full hour. I did want to throw to Phil just quickly, just to kind of share, coming from Lockheed, what does this course mean to you? And then we'll open up to everyone for questions. I imagine everyone's got a lot for David and Dan.
Thanks, Michelle. Hopefully you can all hear me. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone on the call. I'm Philip Chudovitsky. I'm the Strategy and Business Development Lead for Lockheed Martin Space in Australia and New Zealand. Just to draw on the comments that we've just had previously, look, workforce is one of the, if not the biggest challenge faced by industry. This Milo Mission Academy is an exciting initiative that as you've just heard, draws on some of the most renowned experts we have in our field and has a proven program history. As you'd be aware, it cuts across many, our industry cuts across many really, and the skills acquired from this initiative, which excite me a lot, are its adjacent applicabilities into other areas, from communications to technology to energy, resources and defense. Such opportunities really do present a really distinct opportunity to upskill in our rapidly growing industry, which is something hasn't been available to as many before. And it's the experience here brought by many of these subject matter experts that's quite exciting. The pipeline for the future is not just these deep subject matter experts that we often hear from, and we do champion many of these in this program, for example, but the growth of our future industry will often come from adjacent educational and workforce backgrounds, which is what's quite exciting. Myself, I come from a diplomatic background. The regular line I used to use in my old job at the Space Industry Association of Australia was that many of the space companies of tomorrow don't know that they are space companies today, effectively. This is just as true for our workforce. And speaking to Lockheed Martin specifically, we have a long space history. Our heritage extends to having supported every single NASA mission to Mars. I find that out quite often and it blows me away. Our work has supported the exploration of every planet in our solar system, for example. And we've built and integrated over 1,000 satellites, many of which aren't these CubeSats we often refer to, which I do love myself quite a lot, but one's as big as a school bus. From our perspective, there's no more exciting time to be in the space industry in Australia or here. The cogs are turning. As we had a chance to hear from Kerry before, we're seeing movement in the Australian Space Agency. We're seeing movement in Defence Space Command. We're seeing movement in industry and development holistically. I've got the pleasure of being engaged personally across numerous space programs in here in Australia and abroad, but this also extends to strategic investments and what's happening in country here. We've got companies we're investing in that are supporting the Artemis missions. It's amazing to see. We recently just announced the addition of 2 Australian companies to provide some parts to the Orion spacecraft, which will be taking our astronauts back to the moon this decade. The long arc of my comments here are essentially that this initiative presents quite a unique chance to accelerate your understanding and integration into our amazing industry. Our society's dependence on our space technologies doesn't fall flat on us on this call today, but many in our public are largely unaware. But that also equally extends to the exploration of our universe. This initiative will support the growth of our workforce at really what is at the most critical time, and I really look forward to seeing it succeed. Just to finish, I'm a big stickler for great and famous speeches, and I like to find out bits of remarks that are often left out. And there is the famous JFK speech at Rice University, which he states, "We choose to go to the moon, and we choose to go to the moon this decade and do other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." But Kennedy here continues to say, because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is the one that we are willing to accept. Thanks.
Always fantastic words, Phil. Thank you. So I wouldn't mind handing over now to everyone online. Feel free to add questions to the chat if you prefer. Otherwise, feel free just to throw up your hand or just turn off on mute and then start asking questions. We want to make sure you make most of this opportunity.
I'd just like to add too, some of our speakers have already mentioned they've come from different backgrounds. I started professional life as an archaeologist. And so, I've come in a sense from the mud to the stars.
Cool. Thank you. John, have you got a question? Are you able to unmute?
Morning, everyone. Sorry, I haven't put on my makeup this morning, so I'm not going to turn my camera on. But perhaps more of a question for you, Phil. I'm wondering, is Lockheed planning on using this course as a pathway for local employees? Because, I'm representing TAFE. And there's been a lot of talk happening in the space industry workforce space for a long time around training, but I'm still trying to establish what pathways exist for students, and part of that on the TAFE side obviously is working with industry at the start of the student's life to have them as apprentices or trainees and things like that. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts around that and how this might fit into that.
Of course. Look, there's no official connection into a pipeline way. However, it's these sorts of programs that are valued quite highly by Lockheed Martin when they see somebody's interest into joining Lockheed Martin in the field and where we're going at the moment in country, not just in space. Holistically, as a company, we employ about 1,200 people in Australia, and we're growing to about 1,600 in the next few years. And a lot of that will actually be in the space field. So we do look to commitment and understanding. And in discussions building up to this course, I'd highlighted that I think it's one of the big measures that we look for is a general baseline understanding of what we're doing in the industry, what's happening globally, and how we're going. And I think this program offers those kinds of insights and a very good touchstone for meeting people and subject matter experts.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Ryan?
Hey, yeah, sorry, I wasn't able to type it in the chat, but my question is, so I just finished my first year of university going into my second. I think it was Dan, when you were talking about the process of this program, is it going to be once a year thing, or is it going to be like in a semester kind of way? Because a lot of us can't do like an internship until we finish 3 semesters, which would be like halfway through next year. So yeah, my question was, does it run just once a year at the same time in that January to March kind of stint? Or are you planning on doing another one kind of like midway through the year as well?
That's a great question. I was going to say, I'll defer to Michelle when it comes to future, programs, but essentially participating in it once is enough for you to, gain those skills to prepare for that internship. But Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, at this time, our plan is to run this first academy early next year, and with sufficient kind of interest across Australia, we do hope to be able to provide this twice a year. We need to kind of firm up the right time for students and when does it make sense. But in terms of internships, I mean, maybe Dan, you want to talk to kind of how students do this course in addition to their uni or their TAFE course. So we see this. Otherwise, we've heard from many people across different forums that we've been in, that people just can't get an internship, and everyone wants to do these, either at the end of first year all the way through to the completion of your course. So, this could be done anytime. You just have to be over 18. But yeah, do you want to talk, Dan or David, to how students do this in addition to their courses?
Yeah, it is definitely something. It's a level of commitment that students sign up for, and we're always really transparent about the fact we want for all students to understand that they're making the commitment when they participate in something like this to themselves. And as much as we're here to provide that level of support, it's really up to you to take that step and make that commitment. But we have students, and I say that because alongside with your coursework, it is an extra task to take on, right? I mean, in terms of managing your time. So having that level of recognition that it is a level of investment of your time you'll have to make. We estimate it's approximately between 6 and 10 hours a week. So juggling that on top of your course load and potentially, a job if you're working, is something that you'll have to consider. However, we have students all the time. I mean, here in the U.S. in our U.S. program, it essentially runs throughout the school semester, and so students participate in both regular coursework and they do this in addition to that. And while we're not considered, I want to say also, while we're not technically considered an internship, we do have a lot of companies, like I said, that when they start learning about the skills that are acquired through this experience, they consider it like an internship experience. And I will say, Phil mentioned Lockheed not being an official pipeline, but over time, LaSpace in the US has become a keyword search for employers. And so now they're looking specifically for students in the application pool that have done the LaSpace program. And so that stands out to them. So our goal is to make sure that we can do that for you as well.
Yeah, thank you. That definitely clears a lot of it up.
While we wait for others. We had a question there from Cameron just around whether he could participate in this as a PhD student. And just want to make it clear that it's not just for undergrads. We've probably kind of talked about that on our website, but people doing PhD as well as early stage career are more than welcome to join, and we're really keen to have your participation. Everyone brings a different background, different level of experience and knowledge. Any other questions? Vlad will follow you up just to understand a bit more. There's a question there about costs. So the cost of this course is $550 per student. So once you've been accepted, the payment will be required. We do have financial support available, and the Australian Space Agency has will be providing a number of places. Each academy can take a minimum of 300, maximum of 500. And so what we encourage you to do is to prepare your registration. There's an entry spot in there where you can request fund support so that we can put out and access to the students as they come through. We really do want to hold true to the mandate of ASU that this is about making space accessible to all. We want this to be available to people across regions as well as city centres, regardless of financial background or location. So yeah, please submit your application and ask for that. There's a couple. Oh, is that subsidised Australian government? Do you need to be Australian? This course really is, we're trying to reach out to those in Australia, New Zealand, and we'll broaden to Indo-Pacific. Salah, I'm not sure if you're still based in Canada, but yeah, maybe David or Dan can kind of talk to that. The courses are available as well in those regions. This is not subsidised either, by the way, from the Australian government. This is a program that we really see is important for the industry. We are seeking more financial support from industry places, from unis, from TAFEs, as well to provide places where you can. We've got interest from defence sector, resources, as well as space.
Just going to add, the Australian Space Agency doesn't subsidise the program. We are, however, providing coverage for a number of places within the program. So if you apply and you have a need for financial support, then you may be able to be funded under one of those available places.
Monash aren't online today, but Monash have also said that they'll provide some places for students there. Are there any questions that we haven't already answered in the chat? If you want to, you've got our contact details, so feel free to send a note after this if there's anything you've forgotten or might kind of pique your thoughts afterwards. Are there limited spots available? Well, we have up to 500 spots available for this first academy. We still have many places still available today. So the I guess David and Dan have indicated in the US they do end up with a wait list, but it's never any bigger than one academy worth. So I don't. At this stage, we expect that most people that apply, just based off of current run rate, will be able to get in here. But yeah, really encourage you to put your application in as soon as you can.
And we should actually say too, because we do have places available at the moment, certainly your friends, other colleagues at university or wherever that you think might be interested, do encourage them as well. Please, when this video recording is available, I'm presuming that can then be, other people can be able to access the link to that.
All right. Are there any final kind of comments and thoughts, David, Dan, Kerry, Phil? Don't really want to stay online if there isn't other questions, but yeah, final thoughts, and we can.
Actually, it looks like my battery's about to die, so I may have
Okay.
to drop off at this point. Sorry.
Okay. Thanks, Kerry, for joining the presentation.
Thanks. Sorry. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Michelle, I have to give Phil credit for the best quote of the night. That was amazing and inspiring, and appreciate the opportunity to serve. I love the theme of this academy, You Belong Here. So that's all that I have. Looking forward to working with you.
Nothing further out of my part. Thanks. Okay. Thanks, Michelle. Very exciting.
No worries. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, excellent. Okay. Well, I might stop the recording. I'll make sure this is available for people and send out the slides. So thanks, everyone, for your interest today.
Bye, everyone. Hope to see you soon.